Welcome to the Hot Slice podcast, brought to you by Pizza Today magazine. I'm senior editor Kate Lavin, and I'm joined by executive editor Denise Greer. Hello, Denise.
Hello, Kate. How are you doing? Oh my gosh, it's
Fantastic.
October. I love it.
Yes,
I
National
love
Pizza
it.
Month.
National Pizza Month. So, a couple of housekeeping before we get into our guests because this was such a long episode and amazing. I love it. But Pie Awards are due at the end of the month. So, all of you folks that wait till the last minute to do things, Pie Awards are coming up. If you go to pizzatoday.com, you cannot miss the little article all about Pie Awards and how to get your entry going or your submission. So definitely do the Pie Awards. And then also we are just over a week from Pizza Expo Columbus.
Woohoo!
I'm so excited.
I
So
can't wait.
I know, and we're bringing the podcast, right?
Yes, yes, we are.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be so fun. So find Cater Eye. You kind of if you're on YouTube, you can see what we look like. But anywhere else, just say hey you, and it's probably gonna be us anyway. So
We'll have name tags.
yes, we will have name tags. It'll be fine. But just come by the Pizza Today booth. I do not remember what the booth number is, but find the Pizza Today booth. Maybe that'll be your next challenge is to find the Pizza Today booth. So, um, so let's jump into our guest. So I'm going to tell you, and I told him on the show, like as soon as I found out about what Spinato's pizzeria based in Tempe, Arizona, what they were doing, I literally emailed her right back and just wanted to know everything. So Spinato's has just entered into its first, it's a employee stock ownership plan. So ESOP, ESOP, however you want to refer to it. There are very few ESOPs in the country. I think there's like 7,000 in the US, and only 1% of Arizona companies are employee owned. So it's really a fun program, but they're doing it a little differently. So 49% is ESOP, and the other is still family owned. So Spinato's Pizzeria has been family owned for a very long, long, long time. The pizzeria is going on its 51st year. So it's amazing. Fun fact is, I actually was at one of their pizzerias on their 40th anniversary when the founder Ken was still the president and CEO, and now his son Anthony has taken over the reins, and so that's who we're talking to today. We're talking to Anthony Spinato all about. So we're focusing solely on the ESOP because it is the ESOP program. It's so neat, and so to understand it and to see if that's a good option for your pizzeria is really fun to explore.
I loved it, and he definitely framed it as an investment in the future and getting so many opinions from people who are on the front lines of the restaurant every single day and bringing those into the decision-making process.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, Spinato's is not it is a family run business, but it is not a small mom and pop. It is, they have six locations there in the Phoenix metro area. They also are the official pizza for the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury, which is the WNBA team, and they're the official pizza of the Arizona Cardinals. So they have a lot going on there. They definitely are doing things. I think they have 420 employees, and so they have another 150 employees that have become owners. How cool
So
is that?
cool.
It
Yes,
is.
absolutely.
It is so neat. So this is quite a long conversation. So we're going to just jump right in, and I think you're going to enjoy this one. And we'll continue to explore ESOPs for you as well in on pizzatoday.com.
Performance Food Service is proud to deliver high-quality products, innovative technology, and custom operational solutions to restaurants of all sizes across the country. The flagship division of Performance Food Group, with deep roots in the restaurant industry, Performance Food Service has been the exclusive distributor of the Roma family of brands for more than 65 years. This signature relationship has allowed Performance Food Service to become a leader in the pizza and Italian segment of food service nationwide.
Are you ready to elevate your bakeware game? Spokane, Washington-based Lloyd Pans is the trusted name for professionals and home chefs alike. For over 40 years, Lloyd Pans has been creating innovative food service, bakeware, and pizza pans and tools designed to deliver perfect results every time. Whether it's crispy golden pizza crusts or perfectly baked pastries, Lloyd Pan's durable, stick-resistant, and proprietary pan finishes are a game changer. Visit lloydpans.com to explore our full lineup and find your perfect pan today. Need shipping quotes or custom products? Email sales@lloydpans.com for personalized service.
Well, hey there, Anthony. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Well, it's an exciting experience. So I'm going to tell you that when I saw that press release come through from Sue about what you were doing, I literally jumped on it within probably 2 minutes of receiving it. So why don't you share your big news about, the direction Spinato's is going?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Thank you for being just committed and excited about it. Yeah, so last week we announced that we're going to be, transferring 49% of our ownership to our incredible staff and do an employee stock ownership plan. And I guess to give you the background or the why and where this all came from, right? I have to start in like my beginning days at Spinato's, and my dad, waking me up on a Saturday morning, it's 6 years old when I just
I
want
was
to
gonna
ride.
say you grew up in the restaurant. When we say you grew up in the restaurant, you literally grew up in the restaurant.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's where I was raised, on good olive oil and pizza but the love of hospitality, which is what was modeled and really led to this decision, and so from the youngest, from what I could remember, even my grandparents being there, when that door opened, right, and this is the backdrop to help you understand how we got
Yeah.
there. When that door opened, the front door, right, that guest walking in, that was just, we call it the Spinato's experience now, but how my mom or my sister, my grandparents, my father took care of the guests is the same way. If you came, you, Denise, were coming over to our house, it was the same thing. So if you're coming over
Yeah.
for Christmas, it was modeled the same way. And so we built relationships, we sell
Yes.
great pizza, but above that, it's connections and it's relationships. And so that same model was for the back door, is what we call, where our employees come through, our team members. We
Yeah.
treated them like family, right? And so that kind of built the culture within the company. And as we started to get bigger, we were like, what is it that's really unique about us? And it was this way that we took care of our guests. And the Greek word for that is philoxenia, which is love to a stranger. That's the Greek word philoxenia is the word for hospitality. And
Hmm.
so we just connected with that. And I saw this happening and now for more than 50 years, right? And so when we started to think about, let's just call it succession, not that I'm going anywhere, but
Yeah.
as a family business, hey, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, but you also just have to do what's kind and you have to plan for the future.
Yeah.
And so we started talking about what is it that, who are we? What is it that really matters in our community? And my dad said something just that just framed it up. He said, our restaurants are good for our community. And what he meant by that, he says, is we've seen generations grow up in our organization, coming for pizza now, bringing their kids in.
Yeah.
The milestones of life have happened, right? And the celebrations of life, funeral, like this is where they wanted to eat, or this is where they wanted to have the rehearsal dinner, right? And so
Yeah.
we've done that by building these connections. And so what we saw was, and then this is sometimes the only family that people know, as employees, or we're a stand-in because they moved here from somewhere else. And so he
Hmm.
meant that, like, this is what's good. This is what we mean by good for our community.
Yeah.
And so it became about preserving that, right, and sustaining that. And that became this legacy conversation that we had. And we said, okay, well, how are we going to do this? How do we do an employee bonus program? How do we strengthen our organization and the foundation of our organization. And so we looked at a bunch of different options. We talked about a bunch of different things. We have incredible benefits anyway, a lot of
Yes, you
time
do.
off, and there's a lot of things. But the one thing that we said is we just want everyone to think like owners and act like owners, right? Because that's the if everybody did that, would be your superpower. But at the same time, we also recognized how many people already were doing that for many, many years.
Yeah.
And so when an employee stock ownership plan came in front of us, it was like almost like, aha, like, wouldn't that just be the exact thing we need to do? Because it makes their ownership official. What
Yeah.
we've been seeing in their actions and the support of our family coming alongside our vision, delivering the Spinato's experience, they've really just connected with that. And that's why we're successful, right? We make really good pizza. I
Yeah.
don't want to boast about that, but above that, it's more than that. And we recognize that. And we said, we have to preserve this and to stabilize and to get better as we get bigger, as if we're going to grow, what can we do? And the ESOP was just a no-brainer for us. I mean, all six of us, my mother, father, sister, brother-in-law, and my wife were just like, yes, 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 yes. And then it became 2 years of, okay, how do we actually do this, right? So,
And how do you actually do that?
That's what
oh,
I'm like. I'm like, 2 years. Okay, I know there's a lot to it. Like, I just know how much there is to it. So tell us, go inside the process a little bit with us.
yeah, so that part that I just explained, I think was the most significant because you had to understand what it was really
Hmm.
about, right?
Mhm.
I
The
learned, so
why.
then it was, okay, who does these things? How do we do these things, right?
Yeah.
And so through some contacts, I started asking around. I used to be in YPO, an organization here as well, had a good reach of experienced people who have looked at these things, and they said, hey, here's a couple great groups that do this, and then our accountants, Baker Tilly, were significant. They said, we've seen them do a couple of these with some of our clients, and they've done extremely well. And so we selected this local group called Wealth Point. And what was so valuable about that was they were all former business owners who
Hmm.
had sold their businesses, and this is critical. They sold their businesses to other group, not ESOPs,
Yeah.
and they regretted it the moment they did it because
Yeah.
they just saw how it went into the wrong hands. They
Yeah.
got less for it, and they worked their whole life and they got very little, right? They had so much blood, sweat, and tears. And some of these other groups, financial, I don't want to get into that part. They come in and they tell you what's so wrong about your business so they can get you to sell it for a third of what it's really worth, right?
Hmm.
And then you end up settling for that and then you regret it. So they really started this organization, WealthPoint, and they said we want to prevent that from happening to more owners. And so we would never also entertain selling our business
Yeah.
if it wasn't to the people who make it successful. And
Yeah.
that's the dream scenario of,
Hmm.
that they're going to carry this on,
Yeah.
for, and so that was the first part of it. And then it was just lots and lots of meetings and understanding what it is and how it works and what it can do, what it can't do, what's
Yeah.
regulated, what choices you have. And it could have happened in 6 months. They've done them in 6 months, but they said, if you really want to do this well, because it's going to be so much information, I recommend you at least spend 12 to 18 months, you know, us bringing you
Hmm.
information and then you as a family internalizing it and
Yeah.
just having healthy conversations about it,
Yeah.
And so that's really what it was, is, and just keeping our North Star, like why we're doing this. And it's costly, it's time consuming, right? It's really, really not overwhelmingly challenging, but it's a lot of work, a lot of
Hmm.
time, and I was grateful that we spread it out. So when we had to answer specific questions, we could just focus on them, almost like compartmentalize it and just
Hmm.
stay with that, sleep on it, pray on it, and really come to good decisions and then move forward to the next one rather than trying to absorb everything at once and hope you're making the best decision. So that's really, it took us about 18 months. And then kind of closing that transaction was about 3 months of just a lot of back and forth, and there's things that we got to choose, like how do we value compensation versus tenure? Do you want to just focus on tenure because you could do that? Is it just compensation based? And we just, they gave us models. They
Hmm.
we put our census in there. We got to see what it looked like if I increase this number, I decrease this number. I
Hmm.
know our team so well, so I'm like, oh well, this person who I've seen work so darn hard for so long,
Yeah.
they're only getting this. Oh my gosh, we need to increase tenure, the value, and what we ended up is they have equal parts. Neither
Yeah.
one is more important than the other.
Hmm.
And so it was one thing that just being able to work the models and test stuff
Hmm.
out and see what it is, see what it comes out to. It helped us to really understand putting names next to percentages, right? To
Hmm.
go, this is the most fair model that we can come up with that we would feel great about, knowing the hard work and the energy, because it's not just about compensation, right? It's like
Yeah.
who's been with you. I don't look back and see numbers. I see faces, right? And I think
Yeah.
the things that they've done, we call them those ownership moments of like how many have they had where nobody knows they're doing these things. It might be 11 at night and they're just committed to getting things done the right way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
Go
was
ahead.
kind of, go ahead. No, that's kind of from my perspective of how we got here. If you have any more specific questions, of course, love them.
Yeah, yeah. So the one thing that I love is you've gone from six family owners to now you've added another, what, 150 employees.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I really love is that you're marrying the two, the family owned and ESOP. So kind of how does that work being both family and ESOP, family owned and ESP? Like how do those work together?
Yeah, great. I love the question because it's what we talked about most as a family is like, what does this look like? We can't we had to make sure we didn't think that everything was going to stay the same.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is we just couldn't say we're going to do an ESOP and oh here's some ownership. We still operate and run the company,
Hmm.
but we just have now 150 more owners, right? But we didn't
Hmm.
want to just say, hey, you're an owner. Like, what does that look like? And
Yeah.
so the thing was, first and foremost, is we started to think about what can it be? How does it look and feel more like ours rather, like ours together rather than just a family's business, right? And so we
Hmm.
needed to start with this idea of it. It is family and employee owned. And so
Yeah.
and what we did on the front end and is we came up with some family non-negotiables first and foremost, right? We felt, and this is something we should have done 20 years ago, but it was what's sacred to this organization because you realize how unkind it is to hire great people, tell them, we want to innovate, we want to grow, but you
Hmm.
haven't done enough of designing, a document or information saying, hey, while we want you to think like owners and have that entrepreneurial spirit, there are some things that can never change. Like this is what's
Hmm.
sacred. And so we
Yeah.
started with that to create the clarity. So then they know, okay, anything outside of this,
Hmm.
we can maybe have an impact on it. We can make some suggestions. We could, come up with new ideas. And so that way they wouldn't come to the table and say, well, what about this? And we say, no, 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 we would never change that, and then they
Yeah.
don't feel like an owner or an entrepreneur, part of this. So we had to really define what they can, what's on the
Hmm.
table and what's off the table.
Yeah.
And then it was, the logo and kind of saying, okay, changing, and having a branding piece to this. It's family and employee owned, right?
Hmm.
And now we're looking at, like, are the core values what they need to be, right?
Yeah.
And really like looking through our playbook and making sure it feels like all of ours rather
Hmm.
than this is just what came from the family. So now we're going to go through some processes where I told them, the other day we had an alt manager meeting and I said, and I said, usually as an organization, we're trying to come together with give you 80% of what we think needs to be done or set this project up 80% successfully. And then we roll it out and you kind of shape that last 20% because you never know, you never know what you don't know until it's
Yeah.
live. Right? I said, but as owners, and more importantly, I'll explain this in a second, as stewards, right?
Yeah.
And I said, I want to flip the script. I have 150 more bosses, right? I've always felt like I work for you, but now I really, right, I want you to treat me like you bring us, the executive team, the leadership team, 80% of the information. We'll shape it. We'll bring it back to you, present it to you, and ask you if you think this feels right, right? And
Hmm.
so we're just trying to flip that script and turn those light bulbs on, right? And get them to really think like owners. And then the other side of that, there's two things I'm doing is I made a decision and I told my family, I said, there's the one thing I will promise you I'm going to do is we're going to invest in each individual differently than we ever have. And so to
Okay.
start, I'm going to spend an hour with each employee owner and I'm going to bring them a nice, simple education on how they, what the ESOP is, how they can impact it, right? The little things roll up to the big things. And
Hmm.
then I'm going to go over through a real simple financial summary of our P&L, which is going to get posted on our communication, our digital boards
Hmm.
every month or every
Yeah.
period. So they could see every store's progress or, where they missed. And then they can see how the company does as a whole. Because I said, if your store does great and the other store doesn't, it still all goes into one bucket. And
Hmm.
that one bucket at the end of the year is how our share price and that valuation of the organization is looked at, right?
Hmm.
So I'm starting to speak to them and communicate them. I call it Own Up, right? As my new series.
I love
It's
it.
just level up ownership, but we also need to own up to our roles as owners. And so I just want to equip them and educate them. And then on the other side of that is we as a family, we think of ourselves not as owners, but as stewards.
Hmm.
Ownership is the right to possess, right? Which each employee is now an owner and they have the right to a specific outcome percentage.
Yeah.
But above that, we just talked about stewardship, which is really taking care of something.
Hmm.
And so it's taking care of people, right? And so that's part of the education is getting them to see it from that perspective because if we just thought like owners, maybe we would have never done an ESOP because we would have just kept saying, well, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine, right? This is my
Hmm.
percentage. But when we saw this, when we think like stewards, right, we
Yeah.
realize, right, high inflation for several years, cost of living, right, labor market challenges, uncertainty in the economy, right? Those are some of the concerns that everybody in this industry feels every day. And
Hmm.
and so the stewardship is, well, what else can we do to stand in that gap and help stabilize the lives of the people who walk through our door, and try and deliver the Spinato's experience. And so, can we provide them some additional financial security, right? How do we stand in that gap of things we can't control, but what can we control to help that, right?
Yeah.
And so that stewardship mentality is what I really want to teach and talk about and say this is what led to the ESOP. And I want, and so you got to model the way the lessons we're leading is the life we're teaching, right? And so it's like starting from that and just spending some time with them. And then it's just going to be ongoing education, but we're going to have some committees. It's going to be cool. We're going to have some communication committees that no executive team members are going to be on, or myself. We want this to be organically come from within the organization. So that way they feel like now we're sharing the message and we're creating the message and we're sharing it. And then I want to have some committees that really review waste, labor,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Culture. So I want those experts within each restaurant that really just evaluate and know the cost of everything so they can do some simple pre-shifts. Hey, just focus on the cost of a napkin or a cost of a salad container, and so we don't become wasteful. The cost of cheese. So when we see it on the ground, so those are
Hmm.
some things that I really wanted to think about and go, we have to do this different. And I don't want them to just say, I'm an owner. I want them to really feel like an owner. So those are a
Yeah.
couple examples, of what we're going to do over it's going to probably take us about 12 months.
Yeah. to get them fully onboarded as
Yeah, yeah,
owners.
yeah. Because
Okay.
it's a lot
Yeah.
of this is new to them.
Yeah.
They didn't sign up for this organization because of this. This
Hmm.
just came to them, and so now they're like, "What is this?" And so I got to go through the ABCs.
Yeah.
Really, to help them, and they don't need to know a ton. It's just more of how they impact it, and how they can do that daily.
Speaking of that, were you sitting on this secret for 18 months before you could finally tell everybody?
Yeah.
Almost, yeah. I mean, some of our executive team members, because they're all advisors and confident, like and I want them to understand our heart, and where we're at. And so, yeah, I started talking to them about it. And then once we as a family were like all in, and I started to have more of a basis and an understanding, then we had the group come in and talk to our executive team and kind of explain what this was. And
Hmm.
and then I teased it a little bit here and there that there was some stuff that we were gonna that was coming, to the organization that was gonna hopefully change, and have a phenomenal impact,
Hmm.
on everyone. Because if our average tenure is about 75% longer than most restaurants. I think we're like
Wow.
3.7 years, and I think the average is like 2.4.
Yeah.
And that's a strength for us. And I'm like, well, imagine if this can add another year to that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we get to see the same faces who we work alongside. We know their strengths. We know, we have those relationships. We know how to work together with them. And then they're just there longer, less
Hmm.
training, right? There's
Yeah.
there's opportunities there to flow to the bottom line. But then if you were coming in, Denise and Kate, and you got to see me for another year as your server, right? Again, that's that Spinato's experience and this relationship, being cultivated, and then just growing together for a longer period of time. And that's really what, when I think of what the service industry, the hospitality industry, that's what I don't think people understand, is that's where the joy comes from.
Hmm.
It's hard work. And a lot of people say I'd never do it. And I get that, because it's hard.
Yeah.
But I do get to drive home, and we do get to drive home every day. And when we get to put a pizza on the table or whatever you ordered, or just even talk to you on the phone, we always say, let's speak with a smile on our face, because you can
Hmm.
feel that. And then
Yeah.
you can hear the response, or we can physically see the response of how we cared for you, and how we just made your day just a little bit better, or hopefully a lot better. We get to go home. We receive, right, immediately when we do that and when we serve. And so while it's an incredibly difficult industry, not a lot of people in their roles get to see the impact that they're having on the end user.
Yeah.
And when you get to deliver great food and take great care of people, I think it's just what a lot of people are missing in this world. And so this is joy that comes from all of this, And so it's really cool, to see how many now employee owners,
Yeah.
they have told me time and time again. We had an example in the manager meeting yesterday. They said, I just thought I was just going to get a job and stay here for 6 months, right?
Yeah.
But I fell in love with it because of the organization and the relationships within it, and in front of us every day walking in the door. And that gal is now one of our front of the house managers,
Hmm.
at our Awatuki store. And so these are those things that I don't think people know can happen or will happen from this. And so now
Hmm.
it's just, again, rewarding those people who just connected with the brand and our vision.
And that's really a testament to you and your family for building this, because you just hit on a huge number. The fact that you have so many people staying for so much longer
Yeah.
at Spinato's, because that's huge in the fact that you have 420 employees. Like, this is not a small mom and pop. Like, this is hundreds of employees, and
Yeah.
that you're able to cut those retention rates down, and be able to move people forward. And I think the ESOP's just gonna help you even more, because people are gonna feel like they've got a place to grow.
Yeah, yeah, you're exactly right. There's a lot of data that shows it. We knew going in, and again, it wasn't like, oh, that and that, but it added to that why we should do it, right? We
Hmm.
we we saw it as a bigger picture of just being in our community. But ESOP companies, there's less than 1% here in Arizona, right? So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's like a real superpower that we became one. They tend to be more profitable,
Yeah.
without, like, we're not talking about like, hey, we added more stores. It's just within same store, sales growth, revenue increases, right? Expenses decrease because people are more invested, they're more connected, they feel a part of it, and then they're just stronger organizations, for the obvious reasons and what you stated is people stay longer, they're more committed, and we're going through a tough economic time. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, isn't this interesting that 2 years ago everything was cranking when we made this decision, and here we finished it right in the nick of time, where now it's like, yeah, we got to roll up our sleeves a little bit more, but now we got 150 people that are much more willing to even go deeper with us on that.
Yeah, and just like you said, because they're bringing in a whole new energy, new ideas,
Yeah,
new perspectives that is just going to go into your ownership program.
yeah, yeah. And we made a video for our guests. We were concerned, right? That when the information was going out, right?
Yeah. I saw your
Not
Instagram
a,
post. It was
so
good.
yeah, so it was like, okay, how do we do this, right? And the most important thing, we needed to communicate to our guests too, because when they see ownership change, right, they think change, right? And so
Hmm.
you can't have this conversation with them so they can see the value of it,
Yeah.
right? And go, okay, this is how this organization will get better. They just think, oh my gosh, Spinato's what they're selling, and so the thing is, right, for our family, none of us are going anywhere. That was the
Yeah.
most important thing to communicate, and my sister and brother-in-law are now even taking more of a role as brand ambassadors, walking our restaurants. My dad does that as well, but
Yeah.
he's in his early 80s, right? And
Yeah.
so this was part of the, hey, if we're going to get bigger, we have to get better. And through growth, we want that family feel, not to diminish or dilute, but to elevate, and so to be even felt in a greater presence. So just being able to do that, it allows or affords them the ability to spend 4 or 5 days in our restaurants, which is just another impactful thing, because that's where everyone comes, they unite, they get together, and we as owners get a chance to um, now share in that, and talk about that ownership, and but also model it as well.
I'm curious, after 18 months of working towards this, how did you share it with your staff and what was their reaction?
Yes.
So the 18 months, it was almost like you leaned into the finish line, like we did it. And
Hmm.
then we were in the middle of a delayed POS change. So this makes for an interesting story, right? Everything got delayed, and then we blacked out the time for the POS change, except for it just moved along the year. So we weren't even able to announce it, once we did it. So it was almost like we did it, but nobody really knows, and it's complete. And we needed to just stabilize the organization, get all the new systems in,
Yeah.
and get that done. And then it just by we also knew that October was employee ownership month,
Yeah.
and so call it God's great timing on this one, but it just worked out that this became the perfect month, since we had to kind of keep delaying the launch, right?
Hmm.
And so we announced it, and we announced it on we have a Pronto app, intercompany communication, and some people were like right away. It was like boom, 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 like loving it. Oh my gosh! And then
Hmm.
I went in the stores. We brought a bunch of balloons to the restaurants, and with the new logo on it, and there were a few people that just were like walking into their shift and they didn't even know. So
Hmm.
I asked them if they saw the post, and they're like, no. And I said, oh, let me tell you what happened today. And if I could have just recorded it, these are people that have been, like team members that have been seen us at our worst, got us through so many things, have
Yeah.
been just coming alongside us. And their eyes were like, are you serious? Like, what do you mean? Like,
Really?
really? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, this is true ownership. Like, this is not a fake, like, you kind of have this percentage. You literally will get shares at the end of the year that will have a value. You are a part of a group of 49% owners. There's 150 of you, and we're so excited, right, to welcome you into ownership and stewardship with our family. And I'm just so grateful I got out to the stores on that day and were able to hit a couple people before they even knew about it, because I
Yeah.
got to see like their real reaction, right? And I think for me that was it.
Yeah.
We don't need thank yous, and we didn't do it for that. It was because we knew we needed to, and it was the right thing to do, and they deserved it, right? So as soon as we made that decision, we received the reward. But
Hmm.
in and above that, to see their face, I got goosebumps
Me
thinking
It's
about
giving
too.
me
like,
goosebumps
yeah, like
too.
it's just what I'll remember. I always have a nugget, it's that emotion with an experience creates a permanent memory, and that's the permanent memory of the announcement. Mike Faberjak and Carlos at our Scottsdale store, just boom, their eyes lit up, and I'm like, don't worry, I will talk to you about this more in depth.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to let you know, I wanted you to enjoy and celebrate, the day.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'll ask you one more question before we go out. As far as the long-term goals and where you see Spinato's, especially with your new ownership structure, what's next as you continue to move forward?
Well, growth when we were having this conversation as a family 2 years ago, and we were really assessing the health of our organization, and we came to this decision. We talked about growth, right?
Hmm.
And we talked about what that looked like.
Yeah.
And as we kind of framed that up, that's another thing that's like, this is why we need to stabilize and strengthen the foundation of the organization. Growth to us is a exciting word, and it's also a worry word,
Yeah.
right? Because of the reasons how I opened, our conversation today,
Yeah.
which is this is what we're here to do, and that's what we're here to preserve, right? And
Yeah.
so, but we got so many people asking us to come to the West Valley, to the East Valley, to go
Yeah.
north, so many loyal Spinato's guests, and saying, my only complaint is you're too far away, right? And
Yeah.
so we can come once a month. And so, but growth with that, the job opportunities, right? And
Hmm. Yeah.
careers, and, there's so much good in it. But again, it's that preservation, right? But so this was that front step, to help us feel like, okay, we've done everything we can, and we're
Hmm.
going to continue to do these things and be, to live out this culture and
Yeah.
these fundamentals. Now we've done about everything we can to feel like we can grow more successfully. We can get better, as we get bigger. And so we have an idea of going west. That's one
Hmm.
area of Phoenix that we don't have any really restaurants out there, and it's booming. Phenomenal demographics for families and communities that just
Yeah.
fit Spinato's. And so I'd like to have, 5 to 6 new locations in the next 5 years. We just put that in
Hmm.
front of our team. Um, and we've talked a little bit about, full service versus maybe some type of limited service, because the
Yeah, that's
overhead,
hard.
it's like the overhead is so much for serve, the front of the house staff.
Yeah.
But even more than that, the cost of leases, square foot, so we're trying to make our places smaller, but we also understand, again, our food brings everyone together. It's
Hmm.
pizza get, we feel like we unite people, when there's so much going on in the world that it seems like we're getting pulled apart, and so the full service model is what we'd like to stick to, but then the operational challenges, and so we're definitely on a growth trajectory. It's never going to be, we're going to guarantee 5 or 6 locations in the next five
Hmm.
or
Oh
six
yeah.
years. Growth is more about, are we ready?
Hmm.
And when we do it, will there be no dilution, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really, really important. But this is why an employee stock ownership plan was a necessity too, is to front end that, and not do it at a time when you're like, we need to do something different, we're falling apart. It's more of, we need to do
Hmm.
something to prepare. I will say our internal growth should be out in front of our external growth,
Yeah.
and that's how we stay prepared and we continue to deliver the Spinatos experience. So we're excited about it. Our organization knows about it. We just talked about it in our quarterly meeting. But I always say this, it's within our staff and within now our employee owners, right? They're going to tell us with their own growth and development when we're ready to grow,
Yeah,
and I don't think it's going to be something that we're going to feel like it's exciting for them.
yeah,
And so we like to talk about it so they can see
yeah.
themselves in it, right? And how far do you want
Hmm.
to go? What do you want in it? And so
Yeah,
that's the growth, and we're just going to continue to, stay put as owners. We love this, as hard as it
yeah,
is. There's nothing like being in hospitality. It's somewhat crazy and but joyful. It's so hard to talk about like the reward of that, but we're excited for it. So here we are, 156 plus now, family and employee owners, charging forward, but we're going to continue to bring that passion, deliver the Spinato's experience, make sure that never gets lost and diluted in the growth. And that's what's most important.
absolutely. A very organic way to grow. So I love it.
Yeah, yeah, that's how we grew. That's the
Yeah.
funny thing. We didn't have marketing and training in finance. We didn't have all of this stuff for the first 40 years, but we
Hmm.
just kept doing the most important things right.
Hmm.
And until we turned 40, we didn't realize that. We always
Yeah.
thought we were this mom and pop, and man, look at all these great organizations
Yeah.
or these big chains coming to town. They got so much on us, but
Hmm.
really at the end, we realized that, what we had was really something unique and special. And it's really cool to see how many people have connected with that and
Yeah.
now have been rewarded with that.
Absolutely. Well, seeing you at being at one of your restaurants at 40, and then seeing you now at 51 years, the growth is just wonderful to see, and how you've really stuck to your roots with the Spinato's experience,
Yeah.
but you've really taken the brand forward. So, congratulations to y'all on that.
Thank you. That's kind, and I appreciate that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, and keep us posted on how the ESOP's going, and we can't wait to continue to watch your growth.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for your time today, ladies. Kate,
Okay.
Denise, thank you so much.
All
Thanks,
right. Thanks,
Anthony.
Anthony. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Ciao.